well, I'm back. So I thought I was done for the day, and then I realized, gosh, I have not finished listening to Friday's Lori Vallow testimony because of the Gannon Stout case. And so that has been something that I've been very, very focused on. And I, I just really got sidetracked from Lori Vallow last week. So I'm in complete and total shock. Literally, the the testimony that came out last week, absolutely shocking. And I don't know why that is not showing. Why are we not showing? Maybe I have to turn off my... There it is. Shocking. Bombshell. Shocking. And why haven't I seen these videos of other creators freaking out and going, oh my goodness, this is so crazy and so nutty that I don't know. I guess because maybe there's so much of this, oh, you're a grifter, and YouTube true crime creators are, they're sensationalist, and they're, well, okay, I certainly have seen people standing outside of families' houses screaming and yelling and bullhorn, blowing through those things and yelling, and I've seen that. I get it. I've seen people, true crime creators, selling phone calls. You may have a 5-minute private conversation with me for money. Like it's like 1-800 call a friend. But when it is shocking testimony, when it is just sensational, can we just call a chihuahua a chihuahua? Can I look at a poodle and go, golly, look at there's a poodle. Can I do that? So here I am. So I am referring to the testimony by Audrey Baratterio, right? May the 3rd. This, you think that I'm trying to make accommodation for me to be sensational? Let me tell you how sensational it was. It was so sensational that Mr. Archibald Esquire lost his, you know what? He got angry. He got aggressive toward the witness. And I'm going to say it. In my opinion, Judge Boyce almost seemed to help Archibald. I'm not going to say absolutely, right? But gosh, it made me uncomfortable. And I don't think, not for a minute, I don't believe that he was literally trying to help Lori or Archibald or Thomas. I think he doesn't want this kind of sensationalism that can be, that could even be mildly or remotely connected to this religion. I think he genuinely wants to provide an absolute pristine prosecution of Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell so that it doesn't come back later on. I think he wants to follow the rules to the T. I believe all that, but it almost got away from him today. In fact, I'm willing to say I think it did. I think it did get away from him. I think he was shocked, And I think Archibald lost he lost it. He lost it. These women prosecutors, they're killing it. They are prosecuting what is actually, looks to me, to be a fairly difficult case. This was not, an easy, Aiden Fucci kind of case. No. This was big. So I think taking the cameras out of the courtroom, that lessened the sensationalism. I think people got less interested because they couldn't see the players. And I think it's been going on quite a long time, and a lot of people have chosen to follow the Letitia Stout prosecution because you've got actual cameras and you can see what's going on. And perhaps that is what Boyce was hoping for. Perhaps he was hoping for low interest, but I'm about to fire up your interest. It's unbelievable. All right, so let me get my okay, I need to turn that off, and then I need to add the video. Thank y'all for waiting for me on this. Okay. And I'm using KUTV2 News Salt Lake City to show, to do tonight's video. So let's just take a listen to Audrey. And I have questions. Do you mind if I ask them up front? I have some questions. Was Audrey, what is the possibility of Audrey being what? A potential sister wife. I don't know. Listen to her testimony yourself. I'm going to stop the testimony as we go into this to match up with videos that I've previously put out on this case, or specifically about cults and FDLS, the fundamentalist movement for LDS. An offshoot is not mainstream Mormon. It's an offshoot from the 1800s when the church decided no more, polygamy or anything. And FDLS went off on their own way because they wanted to follow Joseph Smith. They wanted to use the old teachings. And that's how they came to being as a separate entity from the Mormon religion. When you listen to Audrey, and you think back to what we've been talking about related to FLDS, Warren Jeffs, even Joseph Smith, and the 10 cults video, it's unbelievable. All right, here we go.
Ms. Baratterio, have you in any way heard or read any of the
trial testimony? If you can hear that, would you put a 1, please?
No.
Okay. As you make your responses to any questions here as you testify, please talk right into that microphone. Please make verbal responses to any questions so we keep a clear record and avoid speaking at the same time as any of the attorneys questioning you. With that in mind, then, Ms. Rawlings, if you'd like to inquire, you may.
Thank you, Your Honor.
There we go. There it is. Okay.
Good morning, Audrey.
Good morning.
Would you please state your name and spell your last name for the record?
My name is Audrey Baratterio, Audrey Barattiero.
And what city and state do you reside in?
Gallatin, Missouri.
Okay. Have you heard the name Lori Vallow?
Yes,
How do you know Lori Vallow?
she was a friend.
And how did you first meet her?
I attended a conference, the end of a conference in November 2018, and her home was offered as a place where people could stay.
So that conference, I think you said, was approximately when?
November 2018.
Okay. And you stayed in her home during the conference?
At the end of the conference, yes.
Do you recall who else stayed at Lori's house?
I think Zulema, Melanie Gibb, and there was others, and Chad Daybell was there.
Okay. Do you recall?
Now, right off the bat, can someone explain to me why they only limit the comments to the ladies that they've let us know about? When we know there were other people there were other women there. Why did they keep limiting that?
Call where Chad Daybell slept while he was at the residence.
He slept on the other side of the home.
Okay. Were you able to observe Lori and Chad together during that time?
Yes and no. I observed that every once in a while they looked at each other, or there was like just a, I don't know, kind of a vibe.
A vibe. So your observations with how they interacted, can you expound a little bit more on that vibe?
The control IQ technology has put me in a
that
place
makes
that
me so
I can go out there,
mad.
I can
Sorry
focus
about
on
that,
being the
y'all.
best teammate, being
They're trying to make money too.
Did they seem flirtatious? Did they seem like they knew each other? Did they seem...
They didn't seem flirtatious, but it seemed like maybe they knew each other a little bit or something.
Okay. And were you aware if they had met previously?
I think that they met in St. George.
Okay. When did you next have contact with Lori?
I believe in February, so about 3 months later or so, and Chad asked me to be her friend.
Okay. So I was going to ask you how that occurred. Can you
Think
just explain a little
about
bit how Chad
that.
asked you?
He asked me to be her friend,
Okay.
and that she needed a friend, and I said, okay.
Did he say why she needed a friend?
Good question.
He said that he couldn't talk to her all the time, and that maybe I could be someone to like uplift her or, you know, be a friend.
Okay.
Okay, here are my thoughts. 3 months after this meeting where they all go and stay in this house, right? 3 months. What in the world? How is it possible that Chad Daybell felt comfortable approaching this woman who is what, a parishioner, someone that goes to the same church that he goes to, that they go and practice camping out? 3 months, and he feels comfortable saying to this woman, okay, I need a little help. It's just a little thing. It's not much. You remember that lady I introduced you to? Or Melanie introduced you? Or Jason Mao, you know, Lori, the being of light that everybody just magically seems to accept. Anyway, that lady. You remember her, Audrey? I've got a little problem. I just need a little bit of your help. You see, you know Tammy. You've met her. You know I'm married to her. Well, she might not be very happy that I am in a relationship with this other woman who's married in Arizona. So Lori's getting a little upset because I can't really always be there for her. She might get a little lonely occasionally. How about you be her friend? Just be her friend. Keep her happy. Just, you know, try to make her focus on other things so that she doesn't get upset. Could you do that for me, please? You are such a sweetheart. Special blessings be unto you, dear Audrey. No, 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 no. That is not normal, is it? Let me ask you, if your Sunday school teacher, let's say that your Sunday school teacher says, hey, Debbie, you remember that lady I brought to the church social 3 months ago? You remember that lady, well, seems like she and I are supposed to be together after my wife dies, but I can't really be with her until my wife dies. So be a dear. Entertain her until I'm free. No. I don't know what it meant. I don't know the reality of what these relationships were, but it's sort of like Nicole Kessinger and Chris Watts. No, they did not meet, and 6 weeks later, Nicole Kessinger is spending hours online shopping for wedding dresses on the same night that his wife dies. No, no, no. Not real. I'm not calling her a liar. Don't get me wrong. I'm saying maybe these people haven't been very forthright and honest about what their relationships were, about how they knew one another, and the depth of intimacy that they experienced. You know what I mean? All right, so let's keep on going. We're not even to the shocking part yet.
And you mentioned this occurred in February. Would that have been the February of the next year?
Yes, 2019.
Okay.
And notice the tone
And when you
of
talked
her
with Chad,
voice.
how were you talking with Chad?
I was talking with him on the phone.
Okay.
Only
So
on the
he
phone.
asked you this over the phone about
Yes.
Okay. And how often would you say that you talked with Lori on the phone after that?
Usually it was every few weeks, but there was times that it was every couple weeks or a week, but for the most part every few weeks.
Did you get to know each other over the phone?
Somewhat. We talked about more so spiritual things, not as much things going on in personal life stuff.
Okay. And when did you next see Lori in person?
In the summertime
Okay.
of 2019.
Summertime in 2019. What kind of event were you attending at that time?
There was a event that was scriptural based and somewhere in Utah, Utah Valley, and I went to that.
Okay. And I just want to back up a little bit. I think you said that Chad asked you to be Lori's friend because he couldn't talk to her all the time. Do you know what that meant?
My impression was that he was trying to keep propriety because he was married.
Okay. And this conference that you saw Lori at next, you said it was in the summertime. Where was that conference held?
I'm sorry, can you say that again?
Where the conference that you attended in the summertime, where was it held?
It was held in Utah somewhere in the Salt Lake Valley.
Okay. And where were you living at the time of that conference in the summer? Do you remember what month it was?
I don't, but I would guess that it was in June or July.
Okay. And where were you living at that time?
I was living in Utah.
Okay. So you lived in Utah and you attended a conference in the same state. Is that
Yes.
right? Okay.
Yes.
I am thinking the way you're thinking, salty sweet tea. You know, Heather Daybell said that she noticed, that they began to notice that Chad and Tammy were sitting further and further in the back of the church, right? And that Tammy seemed to be, in quotation marks, going through another period of depression. And of course, I said, look, just thinking about being married to Chad Daybell makes me depressed. So I'm sure that Tammy was having some depression. But is salty sweet tea, is that really directly at the heart of the matter? Is that what was dragging at Tammy's heart that Heather Daybell seemed to observe, you know, that she was having some mood, you know, disruption? Maybe Chad is saying to her, come on, Tammy, just be friends with my friends. Then I won't have a sick tummy, right? You wonder if he's trying to push this idea with her hey, we need to bring these other ladies on board. It's something to think about when you hear this testimony, and the level of intimacy is very, there's cognitive dissonance, because what she's describing of the request that he's making of her, as well as the type of time that she is spending with Lori and with the two Melanies, it's very uncomfortable. It's very strange. So let's see where this thing is going to go, because it's going to go off the rails very quickly.
And do you know where Lori stayed when she attended that conference?
In a hotel.
Okay. Did you spend any time with Lori?
Yes.
Do you recall who else visited with her and you?
Zulema was there.
Who?
And Melanie Gibb, and there was some other women that I didn't know.
And what did Lori talk about at that time?
I don't remember what was talked about, but at the end of being there, she brought up wanting to work on her husband at the time.
Okay. And
Were these Chad's sister wives? They're all meeting up in this hotel room. I'm not saying they're doing the freaky deaky. I think they're doing far worse than the freaky deaky. They're praying for the death of a human being. Just wait. This is unbelievable.
do you know who her husband at the time was?
Charles.
At some point, did you go back to her hotel room?
Yes, that's where she brought it up.
Okay. So when you say that she wanted to work on her husband, Charles, what does that mean?
Do you want me to back up a little bit?
Sure.
So at some time close to that time, when I had seen her again after not seeing her for a long time, she all of a sudden, out of the blue, brought up all of this stuff about zombies and people being possessed is kind of the idea of that. And I hadn't heard of that before and had no basis for that. And that's why she brought that up in the hotel room, because that was something she was.
The ABCs of CKD.
Sorry,
A is for
y'all.
awareness, because
I really
knowing that
hate
your
when
chronic
it does
kidney
that,
disease and
but they
type 2
are trying to
diabetes
make a
could
living.
progress.
Doing herself.
Okay. So let's just break that down a little bit to make it a little more clear. So you mentioned that sometime before this, she was talking about zombies and people being possessed.
Yes.
How was she talking to you about that?
On the phone.
Okay.
I hadn't talked to her in like 3 weeks, and all of a sudden she brought up all of this things she had learned, and it came out of the middle of nowhere. And then she asked my thoughts about it, and I said I didn't have a basis for it, and that it made me feel uncomfortable. But she was basically alluding to people, the term, I guess, that eventually she called it was zombies, and that it was people being possessed or having a spirit like connected to them or something.
Okay. And was the spirit good or bad or light or
It
dark?
was supposed to be bad.
Okay. So you first heard about this on the phone,
Mm-hmm.
and then when you were at the conference in the summer, she brought it up again?
She brought it up again, yes, in the hotel when the women were there.
Okay. And
The
so when you're at the
other
hotel and you're
women.
talking about this, what else happened in
The
the hotel
other
room?
women.
People
And now
were
she's getting nervous.
just like kind of chatting and, just small talk kind of a thing. And then she brought up saying that she wanted to like work on trying to get a negative spirit out of Charles. And, but actually, I should say, at first it was just like everyone started holding hands, and I didn't know what they were doing.
Kumbaya.
And
my
I thought maybe there
lord.
was going to be like a group prayer or something.
Kumbaya.
And so they all held hands, and I joined hands as well, thinking it was going to be prayer. And then she started talking, basically to say that she was going to try to get a spirit out of Charles. And each woman would say something. And then
So what do you recall Lori saying?
I don't remember exact words, but things like knives and fire and like weapons that you would try to use to that kind of an idea.
Okay. And when
Nothing you've ever heard in church or Sunday school. You know when you do your prayer list and the people in your lives that are sick or they're struggling or they're having some kind of trouble, and you pray for them to have strength and well-being and to find peace. Nobody ever stood up in church and said, please get all of the fiery knives of all the demons and take my husband out. Never. I am not making a joke about this. I am saying what stopped all these people from going, Lori, are you okay? What are you saying? And I'm talking about Melanie Gibb, all of them. We now know that in fact she was being aggressive and weird in a way that was really far off from the mainstream Mormon church or Methodist, your normal, hey, get the family together, put on your Sunday best and go, have fellowship and worship with other Christians, right? This was something, well, just listen.
when you were holding hands with this woman, were you standing, sitting? How were you guys
Sitting.
Sitting in the room. Okay. And that was the first interaction that you had with this circle or this casting or this woman?
Yes, and I didn't know that term of castings. And
Remember,
when it got to me, I didn't feel comfortable and didn't say anything. And then as soon as that was over, I left.
Okay.
this woman, Audrey, is Chad Daybell's friend. Before Lori, before Melanie Gibb. He's already working his magic. When Lori came along with all of her delusions of religiosity and maybe some narcissism, this was gasoline on the fire for how he was trying to fulfill his need for power and control. It's clear now.
Because I didn't want to say.
Okay. After this interaction in person with Lori, did your acquaintance or friendship with Lori continue?
Yes, it did.
How did you communicate?
On the phone.
Okay. And were you communicating with Chad Daybell during this time as well?
Yes.
Now, how did you meet Chad?
I met him in a event in St. George. I had never heard of him before. And he was a speaker and wrote books. And someone said, oh, you should go and hear him speak. So I did.
The devil
And then
himself,
I bought a couple books.
Beelzebub.
And do you know what Chad did for a living?
He was a speaker and
His-
an author. He wrote books.
His wife took care of him.
How many books of his have you read?
3.
Okay. At some point, did you have contact with him about his books?
Yes. About 2 months after I had seen him at that time in St. George in 2018, he reached out to me on Facebook to open up communication. And at that time, I asked him some questions I had about his books.
Okay.
Now
So
she's getting
who
very
initiated the
uncomfortable
contact?
with
He
the whole
did.
Facebook
And that was on
contact.
Facebook.
Facebook, okay.
He was totally
How would
having
you
affairs
communicate
all
with
these
him
women.
after that?
On On the phone.
On the phone. Did you continue to communicate on Facebook, or was it just on the phone?
Just on the phone.
Okay. And
No
what kinds of
evidence
things would you
trail
talk
that
about
way.
with Chad?
Religious things.
Okay. And you were continuing to talk with Lori.
Yes, about a month and a half or so after he started a conversation, and then he asked me to be friends with her.
Okay.
6
Once
weeks.
you started talking with Lori, I think you said February 2019.
6 weeks.
Yes.
What would you talk about with her?
About like religious
Crazy.
things or spiritual experiences.
Okay. Do you recall talking to Lori about her move to Rexburg?
I wanted my
They're
hepatitis
making
C
a
gone.
living, y'all.
I put off treating
But
mine.
they knew this was bombshell video.
Yes.
And do you know where Chad was living at the time?
He was living in Rexburg.
Do you recall talking to Lori in late August or September 2019 about her daughter Tylee?
Yes, there was a few times in the fall that I asked her how her daughter was doing. When I stayed at her house in November 2018, I met her daughter for a few minutes. And so in the fall of 2019, I asked every once in a while, like, how's Tylee doing?
They ought to call it the fall
Because
from
she was
grace.
at college.
That's what they ought to do.
And towards the end of the friendship, when I asked her how's she doing at BYU, she said that she doesn't talk to me very much these days.
Okay. And so I think you mentioned you had met Tylee initially at that Arizona conference.
Yes.
Okay. Did you ever meet JJ?
Yes, for about 5 minutes, yeah.
Okay. Did you ever have the opportunity to meet Tammy Daydell?
Yes, I did once.
And how did that occur?
I happened to just be going to Idaho, and Tammy and Garth and Chad wanted to go to dinner. And Garth is one of Chad's sons. And so we went to dinner, and I liked her very much.
And do you know who Tammy was married to at the time that you met her?
She was married to Chad.
Did Chad
Was
ever
Chad
say anything to
introducing
you about
her
Tammy?
for, you know?
Yes, during the course of the friendship, he said that he had had a near-death experience years before, and that he had been told by a deceased relative that Tammy would pass away before she turned 50.
Okay, now I want to stop this here and I want to talk about something for just a second. At first, I thought, God, Chad Daybell is a goof. He is a pud knocker, isn't he? He's a gooberhead. Why in the world would this guy, who is now been connected to all these deaths and, you know, basically committing fraud for money and whatnot, why in the world would this guy be running around telling his neighbors and now Audrey what, I don't know, maybe she was a candidate for the first sister wife? Well, I guess it would be the second sister wife. But why would he do that? Knowing that these people are going to die, why in the world would he do it? It just seems so dangerous and or foolish and short-sighted, right? And then it hit me one night in the middle of the night. I couldn't really sleep very well, and I was thinking, that's so crazy that he would do that. Maybe the first person that died, maybe he would do it, but then after they actually died, wouldn't he quit? Wouldn't he quit talking about Tammy's death because it's like going to shine a spotlight on him that, oh, you know, Chad, how'd you know these people were going to die? It definitely looks like it was no accident, that somebody planned it. And then I said, oh my God, that's exactly why he told them. He told them because he really wanted people that knew him, people in Rexburg, he really wanted people to believe that he was a prophet. He really wanted people to believe that he had a gift to see the future, that he knew that the things that he talked about in terms of end of time and, you know, Rexburg being protected by warriors and soldiers, that that all that was going to come true. And what better way to convince everybody that he really could see the future and he wasn't just a big old fake fat fraud than to predict his wife's death, and then poof, it comes to fruition. What better way? This guy is this is the smoking gun that everybody's been waiting on. Just listen. This made Archibald lose it.
Do you recall when he told you this?
I would say around the end of January 2019 or in February 2019.
Okay. And at some point, did he indicate to you that he felt he would get married again?
Yes, he did.
Did he tell you who he would marry?
He didn't tell me for a while, but then eventually he said Lori.
Okay. And did he discuss this with you prior to Tammy's death?
Yes.
What were your observations regarding that?
What do you mean?
What did you say to him? What did you...
I asked him if he had talked to Tammy or his children about it, and he indicated that he had talked to Tammy for sure, and I don't remember about the children.
Okay. Now, you mentioned when you talked on the phone with Chad and Lori, you talked about religious stuff, spiritual stuff. Did they talk about other spiritual or religious teachings with you? Besides what we've already kind of covered?
Yes.
Did they talk to you about prior lives or probations that Lori and he had?
Yes.
What do you remember about that?
He said that he had been Methuselah, and he said that he had been an apostle at the time of Jesus Christ, James.
Okay.
That
Do you
is
recall if Lori and Chad
sacrilegious.
indicated a belief that they had been married in previous lives?
Yes.
Do you know what names they claimed to have in that prior life?
I don't remember about the time when he said he was Methuselah. I remember that she was somehow around, according to them at that time. But I remember that he indicated that they'd been married at that time when he said that he was an apostle.
I think it would have been more believable if Chad had told everybody that back in the days of Methuselah that he had been one of the eunuchs.
And he said he was who?
James,
And do you recall who he said Lori was?
his wife, and he said her name was Elena.
Elena or Elena?
Elena.
Okay. At some point, did you move away from Utah?
Yes, I did.
Where did you move to?
I moved to Missouri.
Okay. Did Lori come and visit you in Missouri?
She did. She and her niece, Melanie Boudreaux, said they didn't have anything else to do and asked if they could come and see the church historical sites in Missouri. They had never seen them.
Okay. Do you remember when that was?
October 2019.
Do you remember?
Now, here's a little bit of FYI that, this is one of those hashtag things you never expect to hear, right? We're about to find out that the Garden of Eden is in Missouri. I don't know. Hashtag things you never expect to hear.
If it was the first part of October or later?
The first part?
Okay. And you mentioned that Melanie, her niece, was with her. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Was anyone else with her?
No,
Did you ever see Tylee with her in Missouri?
I did not.
You mentioned that the reason for their visit was to see some of the church sites.
Yes, they said that they had some free time and wanted to go see the church sites. They'd never seen them before.
Did you visit with them at that time?
I did.
Where did you guys visit?
We went to a place called Adamadiaman and to the temple, and they went to Liberty Jail.
Okay. At some point, did you also go back to their hotel room?
I did.
Did you stay there with them?
I did stay there one night, yes.
Okay.
Okay.
On Digital Today.
What is that again? Now that. Dungeons and Dragons is a
Okay, listen. Maybe I'm a strange person. Well, there are people that would tell you that I'm a strange person. I just say I'm unique. Sincerely, though, are you going to go stay in a hotel room with two women that you don't really know very well? Women that the last time you saw them in a hotel room, they forced you to take part in what seemed like a witch's coven. Would you stay in a hotel room with them if the last time you had seen these? This is a woman. Remember, this is a woman that Chad Daybell she meets him. He contacts her on Facebook and says, "Do me a favor. I've only known you 6 weeks, but I need you to befriend Lori because she's going to be my wife once my current wife is dead before the age of 50." And then you say, okay. And so already you're feeling like, this is strange. But you go with it because Chad's a great guy, I guess. And maybe you didn't want him to vomit. And so then when you finally do meet up with Lori and Melanie Gibb and Zulema, the hug lady who conjures up earthquakes, that they say, we need you to use knives and fire and pray for the death of my husband so then I can be halfway to Mary and Chad. And then we'll pray for knives and fire for Tammy. Okay, let's have a sleepover. You people seem perfectly safe and grounded and logical and rational. I think I have a spare toothbrush for you. What? Is it just me or is this just nuts? The timeline on this level of intimacy is so wrong. The oddity of a stranger, Chad, being able to contact you and say, befriend this woman, keep her happy until I can unload my wife. And so when you do spend time with her, now she's talking about knives and weapons and fire to take her husband, the zombie, off the planet. And you say, no, 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 I don't want to be a part of this. And they say, yes, 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 but you have to. And so you just say a prayer, like you do, a kind, loving, prayer. And so you spend the night in their hotel? I'm just curious if I'm the weird one here. We have around 140 people. Please help me understand. Am I the weird one? Nothing could make me spend the night in a hotel with Lori after all of that. I would be the inside, that little inside voice that keeps us safe. I told my kids that little voice that sort of, when you're thinking about doing something wrong and the little voice says, oh, maybe you shouldn't. And then the little devil's on your shoulder going, oh, go ahead. No one is ever going to know. And then the angel goes, I wouldn't do that if I were you. I told my kids that little, voice, that little third ear inside of you, that's God. And when he talks to you, you should listen. And I honestly believe that from what Audrey has described about this relationship, how these people met, the timeline, and the content of their conversations, I honestly believe when they said, hey, Jules, let's do a sleepover, I would go, I would love to, really. I'm busy. I got to get 3 a.m. I got to set my alarm. This has been fun. I'll see you another day. Nothing could make me stay in that hotel room. So curiosity, if you think I'm the crazy one and that it would be perfectly normal and natural to stay in a hotel room with these women, put a 1. But if you're with me and you're like, not no, but hell no, put a 2. And let's see where we are in this, because I was shocked. When I heard this, I was like, you stayed in the room with them after what happened previously in the other hotel. Craziness. Crazy. So here's some 2s. Dr. Latina said, I never would have hosted them. Okay. 2s, 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 2s. Well, and Dr. Latina, did you have any idea that the Garden of Eden was in Missouri, of all places? It's crazy. Hashtag things you never thought you would hear someone say. All right. Okay, so I'm not the crazy one. Thank you all very much. Greatly appreciated. Okay. Hey, Vet. I agree. No way I would spend the night with him. You know what? If let's say the great flood had come, right? And that this was the last hotel room in Missouri. You might see me in the room, but I would be like this. My eyes would be this big all night, waiting. Are they moving? Are they awake? Are they asleep? Are they praying? Please don't let them pray. Please, whatever we do, don't pray, right? Wow. Hey, Wendy. Hey, Lise. The garden is in my heart. Absolutely, Lise. Absolutely. Yeah, this is... Just wait. We're not to the shocking part yet. Just hang on. We're getting there, but we're not there yet. All right. And thank y'all. It's nice to know that we are not the crazy ones.
Now I want to talk to you a little bit more about this experience that you had in the conference in the summer in the hotel room.
Mm-hmm.
That was, I think, the first time you'd heard about this idea of zombies and people being possessed. Is that right?
Yes.
Crazy.
And do you remember when you first heard Lori use the term zombie?
I don't, but it would have been in the summertime.
Okay. And do you know what it meant when she was explaining this, if someone was a zombie?
Yes. The idea was like the person was possessed and that there was a spirit in them that needed to be taken out.
Now, for those of you that don't know, Jason Mao was head of security on a movie about zombies. And guess who the zombies were? They were children. True. The movie is on the internet. You can watch it even today.
Did you ever discuss with Lori or Chad whether someone was light or dark?
Yes.
What did that mean?
Chad had this idea that, I guess, like he would say if someone was light or dark, depending on if like they were predominantly a good person or if he predominantly thought that they were a negative person.
Okay. Did you discuss with Lori people that she believed were dark or were zombies?
Yes.
And who were those people?
She said her husband Charles was, and then later at the end of the friendship, she said that her children were.
None of Chad's children or family members other than Tammy were ever identified as zombies or dark, right? But we have 2 people who have characterized Chad's children as compliant. Now, Heather Daybell, Chad's sister-in-law, Chad's brother's wife, the kids are wonderful. She loves them. She loves them very much. She said they're very sweet. They're very loving. They are very compliant. And we do know from, I believe, David Warwick, if I remember correctly, I think it was David Warwick, that Chad had a scratch on his neck. And when asked how he got this scratch, JJ Vallow gave him that scratch. We also know that Tylee was not a soft-spoken, easily led young woman. She was the kind of woman that I admire. She was strong-willed, she was smart, she was full of fire, and nobody was going to push her around. So is that what got them identified as dark? Because Chad tried to control them and he was unable, and he thought, ooh, these kids are more powerful than I am. I'm not going to be able to control them. They make me sick. Right?
Anyone else?
And Tammy.
Okay.
Yes.
And so her children, can you just give me their names again?
Tylee and JJ.
So these included Charles, Tylee, JJ, and Tammy. Is
Yes.
that right? Was there anyone else that she talked about being dark?
Yes. Melanie Boudreau, one or two of her children.
Okay. Now I'm going to go back to when
Melanie
you visited
Boudreau's
with her and
children.
Lori at the hotel room.
So Melanie Boudreau, whose poor husband got shot at, had a nervous breakdown. The poor man, it wasn't just Brandon that was frightened and hiding. There were people all over Houston, Texas that were hiding from this crazy woman. They were all terrified. They were all in this group. They all worked at the same company. They all barbecued together, went on vacations together. Lori knew all of them. They all had these insurance policies because they were financial advisors and they sold insurance as a part of their overall financial services. And so they were frightened. They didn't know where the kids were. They did not know where Lori was, but they knew that all these people that had insurance on them were suddenly being followed and shot at or killed. So now we find it. Well, Brandon Boudreau did an interview, I believe it was on Fox News. He was shook. He was terrified. And I believe in my heart that he did the interview as an act of safety. This idea, the more people I tell, the more that I'm, out there in front of a camera so that people can see my face and hear my story, that is going to keep me safe, rather than, being hidden away and her feeling more secure about whatever dastardly deed, that she was conjuring up. And so, but in addition to Brandon, you've got to remember they had this whole group of friends that were in this company of financial advisors, and it was the kind of company where they were all kind of like independent contractors, and so it was like a bunch of business owners, and they were all together. They were family. They went on vacations together, and they were all terrified. They all knew Lori. They knew her well, and they were afraid, all of them. So now we find out that not only did Brandon Boudreau, not only was he a bad guy who needed to be taken out by the great zombie killers, but also his children. I'd be interested to know how compliant Brandon's children are. Maybe not nearly as compliant as Chad Daybell's kids are.
In Missouri, what happened there?
They invited me to stay in their hotel room instead of driving back to my house, which was a distance away. And
Go home.
it was going great. And then basically she brought up the idea of working on Tammy.
Working.
And again, when you say working on, what did you guys do?
The last time this woman saw Lori, they were working on Charles, and he dies. Now they're going to work on Tammy? Oh, it's so frustrating. It's so frustrating. There were so many opportunities to save lives. There were so many opportunities to stop and say, hey, guess what? You need a mental health evaluation and lots of medication. We're not doing this. We're not going to pray for fire and brimstone, knives and guns. We're going to find us a nice, calm, well-educated psychiatrist We're going to get you on Thorazine, and then we're going to bring in a few therapists, and everything's going to be okay. I'm kind of making light of it, but that's sort of the hyperbole, that extreme, to try to highlight how utterly and completely ridiculous this scenario is, that it ever happened. In the year 2019, 2020, what sets someone up to believe that this is okay? What makes a group of people look at each other and say, "Oh yeah, we totally got this. This'll be totes fun. Yes, let's do it. We got this, baby." No. This is bigger than Chad Daybell and Lori Vallow. There are more people in this circle, this circle of trust, that the cops need to pay a visit to. I'm convinced of it.
She said that Tammy had a spirit that was in her and needed to be taken out. And I told her I did not want to help and that I did not want to participate. And
Good.
she...
Listen.
If you have Prime, you can get a year of Grubhub Plus free.
She said, "I don't want to do this. I don't want to be a part of this. I don't like this at all." Now, just listen. It is terrible. Terrible. Your heart is breaking for Audrey.
Sorry.
This is heartbreaking.
It's okay. If you need to get some
She
water.
is terrified, y'all. She's not sad. This is not grief.
She highly pressured me, saying, "You're supposed to be my friend. You're supposed to help me. Like Chad asked you to be my friend." And I reiterated that I didn't want to. And she kept on. And this was later in the night. And I didn't know. I didn't do those things in my own life. And
This was later in the night. I didn't know. I don't do those things in my own life. What are you talking about, Audrey? What are you talking about? What do you mean it's later on in the night? What do you mean you don't do these things in your life? What? What were y'all doing? What were you doing? Chad asked you to be my friend. Well, so Chad is going around hand-picking his little group of women. And they're all now, Lori is the one who's molding them and pressuring them into these highly, highly questionable settings and behaviors. I don't know about you guys, but it surely sounds like cult activity to me. This woman is frightened. Audrey is frightened. She's scared. She's ashamed. She's embarrassed. All the control tactics that were used on her by Lori and Melanie and Chad are working against her right now as she's sitting there in that chair and she's trying to tell her truth. She's trying to break down those barriers that they built. The barriers inside of her of shame and guilt and embarrassment, those were there. Those were set up by Lori and the others to make her so ashamed and embarrassed that she wouldn't tell people what they were up to. And what you're hearing here is this internal spiritual struggle that she's having. My God, how did I let myself get into this? What did I do? What was I thinking? And now here I am, and I'm the only one that can tell the truth about what happened to Tammy and JJ and Tylee and Charles. But she's fighting that embarrassment. She's fighting that shame. It's very hard to listen to.
I said that I would say a prayer. And basically, I said a prayer to Heavenly Father saying, okay, I don't know what's going on. If there is something going on with Tammy and it needs to be taken out, I ask for thee to help her. And for thine angels to help her. And I ask that she would be able to feel the love of God. And ended the prayer.
Okay. And were you holding hands with Lori and Melanie during this
No.
circle? No? Okay. Do you remember what other people were doing besides you during this circle?
They were standing or sitting.
Okay. Did Lori say anything about what needed to happen to this spirit that was in Tammy?
That it needed to be out.
Okay.
At that time, I had never heard it before. It was, again, at the end of the friendship because I dissolved the friendship. But basically, at that time, Chad brought up an idea that, according to him, that if the spirit was in someone's body, that they were somehow being held prisoner. And like an idea of a cage or something,
Okay.
like jail.
And so the first time you participated in something like this was in the summertime in Utah. Is that right?
Yes,
And who was that for?
that was for Charles.
And do you recall?
So you heard what she said about Chad, that Chad had come up with this idea, you know, that the body wasn't the person, that the body was just this vehicle, and that the spirit that makes you who you are, the spirit of JJ and the spirit of Tammy, that's the real person, and that the zombie is holding them hostage in the body, in the vehicle. And the only way to save their soul is what? You have to destroy the body. It's the only way to save their soul. So he dehumanizes the people that he wants to have erased from his life, that are standing in the way of his delusions of grandeur, of the priest, you know, Chad the priest. He's dehumanized them. I think there are other things happening that weaken their mind and their body, and it leaves them open to this absolutely ridiculous concept. Right now, today, May the 7th, 2023, you and I are listening to this and we are going, this is ridiculous. This concept has no basis in reality, none whatsoever. And yet, how many people went along with this? How many of these women agreed to do all this? How many? I mean, I know we've got the names they've let us have. Ceresia, Audrey, Melanie Pawlowski, Melanie Gibb, Lori Vallow. But there were others. They've told us that there were others. We just didn't get a name for it. Nicole was one of them. Zulema. Lori's one person. Chad's one person. That's it. You're going to tell me you got all these people meeting in hotels among 4 different states. There was Hawaii, there was Missouri, there was Arizona, and there was Idaho. You got all these people meeting. They're praying for the deaths of zombies, aka human beings. And no one goes, ooh, this is getting a little weird, don't you think? I mean, old Charles, he did kick the bucket, you know. What about Tammy? We can't forget. What about Alex? He's gone too. There were other things that they were doing to these women that left them open to this idea that maybe it was real. Zulema, for God's sake, Chad told her that she could conjure up earthquakes. It was her job to make the giant earthquake that was going to make California fall into the ocean. And you can hear this woman, the suffering, as she's trying to tell the truth. She's embarrassed, she's ashamed, she's hurt, she's scared, she's so scared. She's so scared. This is very frightening.
All when Charles died.
Some of
I'm
us love the
sorry.
rain.
I could have been doing all that talking while the commercial was playing. So frustrating.
Maybe see who's
I was traveling in Europe for about a month, and that was in July, so it would have been July 2019.
Okay. And after doing this other work in Missouri on Tammy, do you recall ever hearing Lori express frustration or have an explanation for why someone might have remained dark or why they were doing this multiple times?
Yes, it's like if it didn't work, at least to me, it seemed like if it didn't work, it's like she came up with a new idea. Like, it didn't work because of this. Or it just seemed like it was like, oh, it's because of this, and then, oh, there's this other thing, and then, oh, and that, oh, it was another spirit that got in, and it just seemed like it, I don't know, would just keep going and going and going.
Okay. Do you recall receiving a text from Lori saying something along the lines of, well, we did a lot of work today, we got her out, but a new one got in, we're still working on it. Audrey, any ideas you have would be greatly appreciated.
I didn't remember it, but I do know, yes.
Do you know what that was referencing?
Audrey, any suggestions you have would be greatly appreciated. Now, let's see. What in the world could that have been about? What do you think, Dr. Latina? What do you think that Lori sends a message to Audrey saying, hey, do you have any ideas about what we could do next? What was the point of that? To make her a knowing, aware, conscious partner in what they were about to do. So she can't go tell. So that she can't blow the whistle on what's happening. Oh, well, gosh, Audrey, what do you mean that this is all wrong and you're going to the cops? You're the one that told us to do this, remember? You remember that night in Missouri in the hotel when I asked, hey, what do you think about this? And you said, I have a better idea. That was on you, Audrey. Go ahead, call the cops. But you're the one that's going to fall. You're going to be the one that's in trouble. Go ahead, pick up that phone, call and tell on us. That's exactly what would have happened, in my opinion. It's just my opinion. No, that wasn't rando. That wasn't just, oh, let's see if Audrey has any. No, it's well planned. It was part of, remember what I said earlier about the walls, the structures that are built, a wall of shame, a wall of embarrassment, a wall of humiliation, a wall of fear, a wall of regret and grief. You put all those walls up, and those are all barriers. Sorry, the camera's messing up with the light in here. It's very dark in my room. Those were all barriers to her being able to tell the story. It was done intentionally so that she wouldn't get the truth out. So them asking Audrey, hey, do you have any ideas? That was just to pressure her to keep her mouth shut.
I believe it would have been referencing Tammy and the idea that she was saying there were spirits that kept, like I mentioned a minute ago, like, oh, it didn't work, so then she would say, oh, another one got in, and
Okay.
with what they were doing.
Yeah. Why would Lori have been asking you for ideas or guidance?
I don't know.
Did you have any special knowledge or insight?
No.
When Lori
she
and
sound
Melanie
like
visited
she does?
you in Missouri, did you do any other work other than on Tammy?
No.
And
So
where did
sad.
Lori say Tammy's spirit was?
She was saying that she was in a cage or a jail or something like this. And it was the idea like she needs to be freed and helped because some person's overtaken her body.
Okay. And so she
Terrible.
wasn't in her body anymore, right,
According to them.
according to Lori. And do you know what would happen if this dark spirit was pushed out?
At the end of the friendship, when I heard Chad Daybell say,
Don't.
something to the effect of, why is the body still alive or something like that?
What is that? Is that crazy? So they set up this scenario that they're dehumanizing Tammy. They're saying that her spirit is in jail. She's a prisoner. Her body is not even hers anymore. It's a demon spirit that's taken over, and that they've killed one of the demons, but then they didn't bind her, and so another demon got in, and so Tammy's still, in danger. Her soul is in danger. And then Chad says, what I don't understand, Lori, is why her body's still alive. It makes me sick. It's so crazy. So this is a part that I need y'all's help with. Why did Chad say that? Why did he say, I don't understand why her body's still alive? Is it Chad who is believing all this nonsense and Lori is manipulating him? Or is it Lori who is believing all the nonsense and Chad is manipulating Lori? Why, if he knows, here's what I don't understand. If he knows that this is not real, that it's not, that if you kill the vehicle, you're going to be killing Tammy. If he believes that, then what would be the point of him saying, I don't understand why the body is still alive? Unless it was to throw everybody off, but I can't see him being that sophisticated. Can y'all? So what do y'all think? This is the one part of this testimony that just really blew my mind. I don't have an answer. AJ, you're sharp. What do you think? Some person or demon? Yes, DB. That the demon, Tom Cruise book club, that the demon took Tammy's spirit, her soul, the thing that makes her Tammy, and locked her away like in a prison somewhere within the body, I guess. And the only way that you can free Tammy is by killing her body, because the body has now been taken over by the demons, right? And Lori's saying, well, we've been working on Tammy, and we got the demon, the first demon out, and then before we could finish everything, another demon got in. And what did she say? There was only 2 ways that you could stop another demon from coming in. And I think it was it fire and water? Or binding? No, it was water or binding, right? Is that right? Something like that. I can't remember now. But so what I don't understand is, was Lori lying to Chad, or was Chad lying to Lori, or was this all just a contrived conversation that they were having so that they could cement the idea of Tammy is in danger And the only way that we're going to be able to save her is by killing the demon body. Maybe that's why, maybe it was all a setup. It was just a way to convince people like Ceresia, Melanie Gibb, Audrey, that they had to do this to save Tammy. And we did get the same kind of information related to saving Tylee and JJ, if you remember correctly. So I think killing the body was Lori's idea, because she already allegedly killed Joe before she got involved with Chad. Judy, I'm a believer. I think Joe may have been the first victim. Now, I have heard, I've had a couple of people tell me they thought that the sister was actually the first victim, that Alex killed the sister long ago. Remember? No, I'm with you. I think that this Alex and Lori learned early that with death and an insurance policy comes a paycheck. I think. But it is very complicated. I get it. AJ says she thinks they were both lying. It's almost like it was a contrived conversation. They knew what they were going to say to each other in front of Audrey and Ceresia and the rest of the women to drive home the idea that it wasn't going to be enough to pray for their death, that they were going to actually have to take action, that the bodies had to die. What do you think, AJ? The sister was the first. Okay, so AJ's one of those who thinks the sister was first, then Joe. I'm with you, AJ. 100%. Yep. Caddy Wampus says, I do question the death of the sister. Okay, so perhaps, and I think DB, so perhaps this comment by Chad, I don't understand why the body is still alive, that perhaps that was part of the mind, the manipulation, the brainwashing that was happening to the women. Is that, are we kind of in agreement there? This is tragic, so sad, it's horrible. All right, here we go.
Okay. I realized that they must have a different idea.
Okay.
Even further.
Even further. And what did that mean?
That they didn't intend for the person to be helped.
Okay.
Even
I'm going to
further.
go back a little bit. Okay.
Still alive or something like that.
Oh, I didn't go far enough.
At the end of the friendship, when I heard Chad Daybell say, something to the effect of, why is the body still alive or something like that?
Okay.
I realized that they must have a different idea.
Okay.
Even further.
Even further. And what did that mean?
That they didn't intend for the person to be helped, I would think. That they didn't want the person to live.
And after you visited with Lori and Melanie in Missouri, did you take a trip later in October?
Yes.
Where did you go?
To Hawaii.
And do you recall about when that was?
Toward the latter end of October 2019.
Okay. Do you recall who picked you up at the airport?
Melanie and Lori.
And where did you stay?
In a hotel.
Who was at the hotel with you?
Lori and Melanie.
Oh my God.
What do you recall about your stay in Hawaii?
It was very uncomfortable.
Audrey, I'm uncomfortable listening to this. I wasn't even there. What do you mean you went, after you hear all of this about the body, Chad saying, why is the body still alive? Them saying, no, 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 we're not trying to help these people. We're trying to kill these people. We got to free the souls of our loved ones. You agree to go to Hawaii and get into a hotel room with Lori Vallow and Melanie Gibb? I know, I need to be quiet.
Basically, they invited me saying that Melanie was going through a hard time and that she needed a friend. And I said, I could be a friend.
It's unbelievable. Listen to the pain in this woman's voice. She's sobbing.
And when I got there, shortly after getting there, Lori told me that Tammy had passed away, and I didn't know. I asked her when, and she said it had been about a week. I asked her, how did she pass away? And she said in her sleep.
Now, does this sound like a woman who's conniving and telling a big old whopper lie? Or does this sound like a woman who is in immense, immense emotional pain? You're going to be furious when you hear Archibald.
Okay. Do you recall what other kinds of things you were doing in Hawaii while you were there?
We went on a bike ride and most of the time spent time at the beach.
And what did you observe about Lori's behavior while you were in Hawaii?
She seemed agitated and snippy toward Melanie and just different emotions. Other times she would like swing and be like happy, but overall her behavior seemed different. I had not seen her behavior like that. I hadn't seen her much in person, but she had been nice and very, I don't know, but at that time, she seemed agitated or, like I said, snippy.
Okay.
Maybe the word she's looking for is labile, meaning rapidly switching between different emotional states, and in an incongruent way, that not, that it's not, she's not responding to things in the environment, but just seems to be like there's a switch or buttons inside that are just changing her. The other thing that she may be struggling with is perhaps she had all the other times she had seen Lori in a state where things were very even. She was euthymic, calm, fairly happy, not on top of the world happy, but just living her best life, and that due to all of the insane behavior and thoughts of death and zombies and priesthoods and goddesses, that she finds herself in a manic state. And maybe this is the first time that Audrey sees Lori in manic psychosis. Maybe.
And now when Chad had asked you to be friends with her because he couldn't talk to her all the time, did you notice anything about her behavior that was related to Chad?
There was times that she would get phone calls and she would leave and go talk and be gone for a long time. And I would just be sitting with Melanie, trying to keep her company. And times when she was happy, it seemed like she was thinking about him, or I think had talked to him on the phone.
Okay. And did you personally talk to Chad while you were in Hawaii?
Yes.
Okay. And you mentioned that you heard about Tammy's death while you were there.
Yes.
And you heard that from Lori.
Yes.
When did Lori leave Hawaii?
She left Hawaii on Wednesday. I had said that I was going to go home. I didn't
Good choice.
tell them this, but I didn't feel comfortable. And I was going to go home. And when I said that I was going to go home, they said, but you just got here. And then Lori said that she was going to leave. And Melanie said that she wasn't ready to go home yet, but that she didn't want to be alone. So when Lori said that she was going to be leaving, then I said, well, I could stay with Melanie so she won't be alone.
And so did Lori leave before you and Melanie did?
She did.
Okay. And do you know if that was planned?
My impression is that the ticket was bought like the same day.
Okay. Do you know where she left, where she went when she left Hawaii?
She said she was going back to Idaho.
Okay. When did you leave Hawaii?
On Sunday that week.
Okay. And where did you decide to go when you left?
Again, I wanted to ideally go home, but I didn't want Melanie to be alone because she was going through a hard time. So I told her that I would fly with her there.
And when you say there?
Sorry, Idaho.
Okay.
And because I was going there so that she wasn't alone, that I would pay my condolences in person.
I missed this part. So Tammy dies. Lori leaves, and then not Wednesday, but the following Sunday. So about a week after Lori leaves, she and Melanie get on a plane to Rexburg to pay condolences after she's been praying. Wow. What do y'all think? Wow, that is, well, I'm going to be quiet. Let's see what she says. I missed this part. I don't know how I missed that. Wow, that is hard to believe, y'all.
To Garth. Because
Yes, Judy Burgess. Yes, the frog in the boiling
I knew
pot.
that he'd been very close to his mom. And then also to pay my condolences to Chad.
And so that's why you decided to visit Idaho?
Yes.
Where did you stay while you were in Idaho?
In Lori's condo.
And when you were there, did you observe Lori and Chad together?
I did.
How did they act towards each other?
Very romantic.
Did they physically touch each other?
Yes.
What did you observe?
They were kissing and hugging.
And was that just in the residence, or was there anywhere else that you observed this?
I observed it in the residence.
Okay. And do you recall who else was in Lori's residence in Rexburg when you stayed there?
Melanie stayed in one of the rooms.
Okay.
Yes.
Was there anyone else there?
No.
Amazing.
Did you see Chad in the residence?
At times, yes.
Okay. Do you know if he slept in the residence?
Sometimes he came back later at night, and so I didn't see him come back. But other times I did, and yes, he did stay.
It looks bad, DB.
And while you were in Rexburg, did you go
it
anywhere?
looks bad.
Yes, we went to the temple.
Okay. Who was with you when you went to the Rexburg temple?
Chad and Lori and Melanie.
They went to the temple.
We understand the direct link between sustainable operations, corporate stewardship, and long-term financial success. That's why we're...
No wonder the church doesn't want any of this getting out.
We'll be there.
My God.
Joanna, may I have just one moment?
Yes.
Wow. It is cheated no more. This is unbelievable. They went to the oh my gosh.
Joanna, I don't have any questions at this time.
All right, thank you, Ms. Rollins.
I somehow missed this end of the direct
Who
questioning.
will be conducting cross?
So now Archibald's going to get up
All right,
there.
Mr. Archibald.
Gird your loins, because you're about to get angry at Archibald. I got to tell you, I am having a hard time. I'm having a hard time processing this. So she's freaked out. They go to Missouri where the Garden of Eden is. They pray to release Tammy's soul using knives and fire and all the fiery tools of the adversary against Tammy's demon body. And she refuses, and she's scared. And so then, because she's sweet and she doesn't want to hurt anybody's feelings, she agrees to spend the night in the hotel, and then they go to Hawaii a couple of months later, and then she stays with these women again, and this is when she sees them after the whole Missouri thing, and they say, oh, by the way, pass the Italian dressing for my salad, and did you hear Tammy passed away? Where's the fear? Where's the, oh my God, so this was terrible, this was bad, this was awful, I'm going home, I'm leaving Wednesday to go home to my safe, quiet, safe abode. Oh, but I don't want to be alone. Please go with me so I don't have to be by myself. And so she says, oh, okay, well, so I'll go with Melanie because I want to be a good friend, and it'll allow me to give my respects to Garth. But she was praying with the group. And when they get there, she's watching Lori and Chad making out like little teenagers. And then they go to a temple to, I guess, pray for Tammy. This is just, all I can say is this. This woman, Audrey, she has got nerves of steel to be up there on that stand telling the truth, because she knows how this looks. She knows. But she's trying to do the right thing. She's trying to make amends. I believe her. No one would make a lie up to make themselves look so ridiculous and out of touch. Nobody. I believe her. I think she is afraid for her soul, and she's trying to make things right. So, Audrey, wherever you are out there in the world tonight, peace be with you. It is mind-blowing, Lola. It is. It is. Heartbreaking, too. Dr. Latina. Gallows humor. Jules, your videography on this live stream makes you seem as if you are visiting us through the veil.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So if I take this right, you spent time with Lori and Chad in 5 different states: Utah, Arizona, Missouri, Hawaii, and Idaho. Is that right?
I stand corrected.
And you met them through conferences or religious seminars. Is that right?
Yes.
And what religion are you?
A member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
And what what were these conferences that you were going to?
Survival.
They were about like scriptures and about last days events. And
how old are you?
I'm 34.
Are you
Dare
single or
you,
married?
I'm
Archibald?
single.
And what do you do for a living?
I work remotely for customer service.
Okay. And so you'd go to these seminars to, were they called Preparing a People seminars?
Mm-hmm.
Is that a yes?
Yes.
And preparing a people for what?
The
The big
ABCs of CKD. A is for awareness, because knowing that you're chronic.
I have a question for you guys. Why do you think he asked her age and if she is married? Is that just a little bit misogynistic? I'm curious. What do you guys think? Why would he ask her age and if she were married? Let me see what you guys are saying. Where is my chat? My chat's gone. Oh, it's back. Okay. It doesn't help his voice is so deep. He really gets angry with her. He does get angry, Lola. Every one of them should have been excommunicated. Agreed, Sandra. I actually like the timbre of his voice. Audrey breaks my heart. Absolutely, Jill. It's very difficult to listen to. I think that she is being truthful. I think regardless of how bad she knows this makes her look, how difficult, how embarrassed she is, how regretful she is trying so hard to do it right. And that counts. That matters to me. So, good question. What does it matter, her age and status, right, AJ? When I heard that, I thought, wow, you manipulative. Ooh, I'm not going to say it. Y'all know.
To diabetes medication.
For like the millennium talked about in scriptures.
For the end of the world?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And the end of the world seminars was something that you were interested in?
I was interested in learning about that subject.
And is that when you were introduced to Chad Daybell and started to buy his books?
Yes.
And these books that you bought from him, were they about the end of the world?
Yeah, they were like fictional accounts of like people who would be like living fictional type.
And did Chad tell you, yes, they're fictional books, but they're actually true?
He said they were fictional, but that they were based on some of the ideas in them were based on spiritual experiences or impressions that he or other people had had.
And Chad had talked to you about his near-death experiences. Is that right?
Yes, yes.
And that he had
That's right, AJ.
been to the other side,
I agree.
had seen that, and now he's back here writing books about it. Is that what he had told you?
I don't know if he wrote a book about his near-death experience, but he was writing books.
Okay. And the end of the world, is that something that's going to be happy or sad?
All the scriptures talk about it being both.
Okay. And so preparing a people is about preparing for a happy event or a terrible event?
A happy event.
Okay. So
Agreed.
what's the point? Why do you need to prepare for a happy event?
Objection, relevance, and argumentative.
Overruled.
Go ahead.
Oh, what was the question?
What's the point of preparing to be happy when Jesus comes again? What's the point of that?
To be with God and to be with your family and to live among people who want to be with God.
Okay. So what do you need to do to prepare for a happy event?
Be living the commandments and the gospel, doing the best you can.
Okay. So that's the point of these seminars or conferences that you would go to, is how to be happy if Jesus comes again. Is that
Yes.
right? All right.
You think there was
And
jealousy,
so,
Kimberly?
spending time with Chad and Lori, did you also meet Alex Cox?
I met him once at the end of the friendship
And where did you meet Alex?
in Idaho.
Did you ever meet him in Utah,
No,
in Arizona,
no,
in Missouri,
no,
in Hawaii?
no.
Okay. Did you ever meet Charles Vallow?
Once.
And what did you think of him?
It was for a few minutes and he seemed nice or pleasant at that time.
Do you remember when that was?
November 2018.
He looked to you like anyone who had a demon or possessed, anything like that?
No, not when I met him.
All right. And so, when you did this
Absolutely, DB.
first prayer group or casting in Utah, I think that was, you said, summer of 2019?
Yes.
And so and you had read in the scriptures about castings or getting rid of demons or evil spirits. You'd read about that in the Bible?
Not particularly, but yes, it's in the Bible.
Yeah. Doesn't Jesus cast out evil spirits?
Yes.
So that's in the New Testament?
Yes.
And so you were familiar with that concept of Jesus casting out evil
Unbelievable.
spirits, right?
Yes.
So in these prayer groups, when
True, Kimberly.
when you and your friends were saying, let's cast out an evil spirit, you had never been part of a prayer circle that had done that.
No.
That Chad
And,
told her that he was
was it
marrying
unusual to
Lori.
you?
There was a little bit of jealousy there, maybe.
It was very sudden and unusual, yes.
Okay. Because you weren't, like Jesus in the New Testament, he'd see an evil spirit and he'd cast it out. And that's what you were familiar with, right?
Yes.
So in this situation, some ladies were meeting in a hotel room and asking Jesus to cast out an evil spirit somewhere else, right?
I don't know that they were asking Jesus to.
Who are you praying to?
Your Honor, I'm going to object. This is misstating the witness's testimony.
I'll overrule that. I think it goes directly into what direct testimony discussed.
I didn't think so.
Who were you praying to if it wasn't Jesus?
When, at that other time when I said a prayer, I said a prayer. The method that they were using didn't seem like a prayer.
Okay.
Listen.
So were they calling upon Father in heaven?
No.
Were they calling upon the devil?
Terrible.
Not specifically, but the words that were used were like aggressive things.
And so this is your very first...
things. Were they praying to Jesus? Were they asking God for help? No, she's clear. She's clear about that. But she doesn't want to repeat what they said. Aggressive things. They were praying to kill these people, y'all. They were praying to kill these people, and then they died. This is terrifying.
Time that you spent with these ladies in a hotel room in Utah in 2019, and Charles Vallow was still alive, right?
Yes.
And they're saying things, and you don't think it sounds like prayers to Jesus. You think it sounds like something else.
I didn't know what it was, but it wasn't like a prayer, like.
And so were you worried for Charles Vallow at that time?
I didn't know what to think.
Listen to this again.
Jesus.
Listen to
And they're
this.
saying, and Charles Vallow was still alive, and you time
The words.
on
This is the most unbelievable.
Father in heaven. Okay.
They were using time when I.
Unbelievable. Terrifying.
When at that other time when I said a prayer, I said a prayer. The method that they were using didn't seem like a prayer.
Okay. So were they calling upon Father in heaven?
No.
Were they calling upon the devil?
Yes.
Not specifically, but the words that were used were like aggressive things.
And so this is your very first time that you spent with these ladies in a hotel room in Utah in 2019, and Charles Vallow was still alive, right?
Yes.
And they're saying things, and you don't think it sounds like prayers to Jesus. You think it sounds like something else.
I didn't know what it was, but it wasn't like a prayer, like.
And so were you worried for Charles Vallow at that time?
Good question, Archibald.
I didn't know what to think.
Did you call the police?
No.
So did you call church headquarters?
No.
Good question.
So you just thought, these are ladies, they're being kind of weird? Is that what you thought? Is that a yes?
Yes.
And so if you thought they were a bunch of weirdos, then you'd never want to hang out with them again, right?
Yes, but I thought it was just, I didn't know what to think of it, and
That's right, Ceresia.
that I didn't know about it, and it wasn't my thing personally.
So did you say, hey ladies, this is stupid, let's not do this?
No, I just removed myself. I left right after.
But yet you kept getting together with
You
these
went
ladies,
to Hawaii.
right?
You went to Rexburg
No,
to pay your
I did not know
condolences.
Zulema and Melanie Gibb very well.
So you met them after this, first time you met them again in Arizona, right?
Yes, but I was not in communication with them.
And your communication was mostly with Chad, right?
Yes.
So Chad was the source of all of your information about castings, about evil spirits. Is that right?
I first remember hearing about zombies and that languaging from Lori.
And where did Lori say she got it from?
So it's true. Men built the world.
Yeah, when she says aggressive things, that they were saying aggressive things, it almost makes me think about, you know how people will say people like speak in tongues, right? I mean, is that what was happening? They were doing these religious kind of chants and whatnot, and it scared her to death? But then why did she stick around? Well, some people could argue because she was afraid of these people by then, right? What was it that Lori Vallow said to Melanie Gibb in that phone recording that was played during the preliminary She said, you'll be held responsible for the knowledge that you have. And then the other one said, well, you will too.
Chad, right?
What were they talking about? What was this? What were the angry
Lori.
things? Was it the sounds of demons' voices?
Source was mostly with Chad, right?
Yes.
So Chad was the source of all of your information about castings, about evil spirits. Is that right?
I first remember hearing about zombies and that languaging from Lori.
And where did Lori say she got it from?
Right, Phoebe. Yes, absolutely.
Chad, right?
These things are seductive, right? I mean, the majority of us are living small lives. We're living small, difficult lives. A lot of, people make jokes about living lives of quiet desperation. But the reality is that most of us are living the same life. We're all living parallel lives, and that is, we have our families and we want to work hard to make sure our kids are safe and that they have the things they need and that they get educated and that we save some money for retirement, and then we have our jobs and we have a couple of friends at work, and for the most part that's the extent of our lives. We're fairly small in terms of the overall land mass of the world. We don't affect a lot, right? Well, this woman is older. What'd she say? 36, 37, not married. She doesn't have those things. And can you imagine the seduction of being connected to people with magical powers? That here's Chad, near-death experience. He can see behind the veil. He knows that he can tell the future. She has been chosen as one of the Church of the Firstborn. This is seduction. We're gonna take you out of your small little inconsequential life, and we're gonna set you up on a throne of gold. You're gonna be one of us, one of the chosen. And to prove it, we're gonna fly you to Hawaii. We're gonna let you see how the other half lives. It's very sad.
I'm trying to remember. I don't remember one for sure.
Okay. And so these spiritual experiences that you were, their spiritual talks you were having with Chad, did you ever at any time think he's a weirdo, he's leading me astray?
Remember, those of you that have watched
At the end of the
I did a video where I looked at like the top 10 cults that are still in operation today, and I compared and contrasted to what Chad and Lori were doing and how they operated. Remember, every one of these cults, they use sex and fear, the end of the world. Sex and the end of the world. Sex is a drug to increase the likelihood that you'll repeat a behavior again in the future. And the end of the world fear is to say, we're the only one that are going to be able to save you. So you want to be a part of us. You want to come be with our group because we're going to be able to save you. And whether the cult is one of doomsday or the cult is one of UFOs and, aliens up in the spaceships, it all amounts to the same thing. We have special knowledge. We can see things. We know things that other people can't see and know. Therefore, they don't know about the impending doom. But if you stick with us, bub, we'll keep you safe.
Friendship. There was questions in my mind.
So at the end of the friendship, you're talking about November of 2019.
October
of 2019.
Yes.
So in the summer of 2019, you were still a fan of his, a follower. Is that fair to say?
I thought that he had information and was doing good things, yes, at that time.
See?
You went to his seminars, you went to his conferences, you bought his books, you've messaged him on Facebook, you called him on the telephone, and you texted with him, right?
He contacted me on Facebook, but yes, the rest.
So you thought, this is some spiritual leader, I need to follow him. Is that right?
No, he was seducing
At
her.
that time, I thought that he was someone who could help understand.
And because you were following him, is it safe to say that other ladies wanted to follow him too?
That could be the case.
Like Lori Vallow,
Yes,
like Melanie Gibb,
yes,
like Zulema Pastinas.
yes.
You know, I didn't think this was a good move
So
from Archibald because her charges, isn't it conspiracy? So it doesn't matter if there were other people involved. The only thing that matters if he's the one who conceives of the death and she goes along with how to make it happen, and it certainly looks like that. She's pursuing Audrey and these others. She's whining and dining them, taking them to Hawaii and whatnot. Other things we think. To set them up to do the dirty deed. So I don't know how this helps Archibald at this particular point. People like Lori, yeah, well, you know, she was Chad's right-hand man, Archibald.
when Chad told you about prior probations and prior lives, what did you think of that doctrine?
Say hello to New Jergens Melanin Glow, enriched with silky cocoa and shea butters.
I wondered if there could be something to it.
And he said that he had been Methuselah. Is that right?
Yes.
He was a
And
eunuch.
who is that?
He lived in the Old Testament and was a prophet.
Though Chad Daybell told you, in a prior life of mine, I was a prophet named Methuselah in the Old Testament. He
and
told you
an
that.
apostle.
Yes,
And you believed him.
yes.
And in another prior life, Chad Daybell told you, I was an apostle of Jesus Christ. He told you that.
Yes,
And you believed him.
yes.
So that's 2 prior lives. Did he tell you how many prior lives he had?
I don't remember how many he said.
She's so
Multiple.
embarrassed. I
Yes.
feel so bad
Many.
for her.
Is that right?
Yes,
Over thousands of years.
yes,
Over millions of years.
yes.
Over billions of years.
I don't know.
Long time. That he was regenerating as all these great people. Right?
Yes.
Did he ever say, yeah, one of my prior lives, I was a loser in the 1700s?
No, that's for
Ever
this
say
life,
anything like that?
Archibald.
No.
He's a loser in this
All of
life.
his prior lives, he was someone great, someone cool, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And he said, he told you that his name was James, and he was a friend of Jesus, right?
Yes.
Was he the
Blasphemy.
brother of Jesus named James or a
Blasphemy.
friend?
I think it was the brother.
Okay. And that Lori had been, in one of her prior lives, she had been Elena, and she had been married to James in a prior life. Is that right?
Yes.
And Chad and Lori, in their prior life, Chad told you that that they were friends with Jesus and walked in Palestine with Jesus. Is that
Yes.
right? And Chad Daybell told you that you were married to Jesus.
Objection, Your Honor, relevance and beyond the scope.
Overruled.
Yes, he did.
Voice was in the wrong.
And
on
so
that
what
one.
was your name being married to Jesus?
He said Joanna.
Joanna? So when Chad Daybell told you that in a previous life your name was Joanna and you had been married to Jesus, what did you think of that?
At the time, I thought it could be true because I trusted him.
You thought it could be true because it sounded cool, huh? Is that a yes?
Yes.
Sounded amazing, right?
Yes.
I mean, that's pretty cool, being married to Jesus. You thought that was pretty cool, right?
Objection asked and answered.
Sustained.
So in your thought process, were you thinking, this Chad Daybell guy is correct. He's really predicting the past. He can probably predict the future too. Is that what you were thinking about him?
Objection argumentative.
Overruled. You can answer.
Voice.
Can you ask the question again, please?
That was kind of a wordy question. So you thought Chad Daybell is telling me about my past. He can probably predict the future too.
Yeah.
He is being cruel.
Because he
Kimberly.
was writing books
Yeah,
about the end of the
agreed.
world. He was telling people who they were in prior lives, great people, not losers.
He's manipulating
And that
everyone.
gave you a feeling of, I'm somebody, right?
Yes.
And I think Archibald right here, maybe I'm wrong.
Why did you move to Missouri?
Maybe I'm wrong, and some of you will tell me, I think you're off base here, and I could be. I'm owning that before I say it. But I think in some ways Archibald is sort of like a shark in the water. When there's blood in the water, I think he senses her shame, that she feels foolish, that she bought into all this and believed in Chad and Lori. And I think he senses that, and he does get really snarky and, as you said, Kimberly, cruel.
As a matter of prayer, I just personally felt to.
Is that because Jesus is supposed to come to Missouri?
It wasn't for that reason. I was just praying and following the Spirit for my life.
Do you believe that Jesus, when he comes to earth again, is going to come to Missouri?
Objection, her beliefs are irrelevant.
That's sustained. You don't need to answer that question.
Did Chad tell you that? That Jesus is going to come to Missouri?
That is a belief of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
That Jesus is going to come to Missouri when he comes back to earth. He's not going to come to Jerusalem. He's going to come to Missouri.
Some of us love the rain.
That's what Chad told you, and that's what you believe.
Objection, again, her beliefs are irrelevant.
Sustained. Don't answer that question.
Now, when you talk about going to Missouri to see church historical sites, what do you mean by that?
Yes, Kimberly.
Like places that the pioneers had been in Missouri.
And the pioneers, you're talking about who?
The pioneers of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
Those are people who lived in 1840s.
Yes.
They were kicked out of the state of Missouri. Is that right?
Yes.
Objection, Your Honor. Those are facts not in evidence.
What, Archibald?
Sustained.
You're going to attack an entire religion now? Ugh.
So which church historical sites did you visit?
Adam on Diamond, and they went to Liberty Jail.
Agreed,
And
created no more. Yeah, no, or cheated no
I don't
more.
know if they went to any others.
He's doing his job.
So what does Adam Ondai Amen mean?
It means a place where Adam lived.
Maybe Glamis.
Adam, as
Maybe.
in Adam and Eve of Old
Yes.
Testament. He lived in Missouri in a place called Adam Ondai Amen.
Yes.
All right. And then you went to, you say, you went to the temple in Missouri with Lori and Melanie Baratterio. Which temple is that?
The Kansas City Temple.
Okay. And then you went to Liberty Jail. What are you talking about when you say that?
Liberty Jail is a place where Joseph Smith was in jail.
And why is that significant?
She doesn't want to say.
Objection, Your Honor. Relevance.
Well, it came up indirect, so I'll overrule that for now, but it
Liberty's.
does need to go towards the relevant point, Mr.
I don't
Archibald.
remember Liberty.
You said you went there for a church historical site. That's a place where Joseph Smith was in jail while being punished by the people in Missouri. Is that right?
Yes.
Yes.
All right.
Where are you going with this, Archibald?
And then in October of 2019, when you're in Missouri, you were with them when they did another casting. This time not with Charles, but with Tammy, right?
Yes.
Horrible.
And so this casting
Horrible.
in this hotel room, you and two other ladies, what do? You say you prayed to Jesus. What was there other prayers to Jesus to get rid of evil spirits in Tammy?
I guess I don't know what you mean. I said a prayer to Heavenly Father, and saying that I didn't know what was going on or if there was something,
Okay.
but that He would help.
Scared.
You wanted to help Tammy.
Yes.
And you believed that saying a prayer to Heavenly Father would help Tammy get rid of her evil spirit.
That if there was something going on that God knew, and asking for Him to help if there was something.
And so were you and Lori and Melanie holding hands similar to what you did in the Utah hotel for Charles?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Now, sometime during this summer of 2019, you also heard the term zombies. Had you ever heard that before, other than in scary movies?
No.
And did that term come from Chad Daybell?
I don't know who it came from. At the time, it seemed like it came from her.
Okay. And did Lori say this is something that Chad has taught?
I don't remember her saying that.
And how about the light or the dark scale? Had you heard of that before?
No.
And is that something that came from Chad Daybell?
Yes.
And that was his way of predicting if you're if you're good or if you're bad. Is that right?
Yes.
Is that also a way of predicting if you're going to live or die?
No.
Okay, it was just good or bad.
Yes.
And what was your score?
I don't remember.
Was it a good score?
Yes. Like good. Yeah.
Yeah. So Chad Daybell said you have a good score.
Yes.
But you don't remember the number, but you remember thinking, oh, that's good.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yes.
Be careful, he's drawing you in.
I did not plan on COVID or rising food prices. No, nobody planned on it.
People can't.
So all of these times that you were doing castings for Charles and then Tammy, did you ever think someone is in danger? I better call the cops.
No, not until at the end when I dissolved the friendship and I felt like I could be in danger.
So you dissolved the friendship when?
When I left Idaho.
Okay. So you'd been to Utah with them, Arizona, Missouri, Hawaii. During those 4 states, hanging out on the beach, going to seminars, you didn't feel like this is weird. You were okay with it.
Good
Hanging out
thought,
on the
Vicky
beach?
Carpenter.
Didn't you guys go to the beach in Hawaii?
Yes, I didn't think that was weird hanging out at the beach.
Well, yeah. They were friends. You were having fun with your friends on the beach in Hawaii, right?
Yes, but it was uncomfortable because they were talking all the time about zombies and about Melanie's kids.
And so you
About
felt so
Melanie's
uncomfortable
kids.
around them after Hawaii that instead of going home to Missouri, you went to Idaho with them.
I wanted to go home to Missouri.
But they made you buy a ticket to Idaho instead of Missouri.
No,
Okay.
but I have a big heart.
No.
And I didn't want Melanie to be alone because she said she was going through a hard time.
So sad.
Because you were a friend. You were a friend of Melanie Boudreau, right?
I had only met her briefly before that. Like, the first time I met her was when she came to Missouri. But as I said,
Yeah.
I have a big heart and try to help those around me.
Yeah. Do you, and that's what a friend does, is you wanted to help your friends, right?
Until I didn't think they were friends.
Yeah. And that's why you went to the Rexburg Temple in Idaho with Chad and Lori and Melanie. It's because they were your friends, right?
They asked me if I wanted to go anywhere, and I said I wanted to go to the temple.
And the temple is a place where you can worship God
Yes,
and be with your friends.
to serve others.
Yeah. And that's why you went to the temple with them, right?
The temple is a place of peace.
And so when you went to the temple with Chad and Lori and Melanie, that could have been why they went to the temple too, right?
It could have been.
All right, thank you.
All right, that'll conclude the cross-examination then. Ms. Rawlings, would you like to conduct redirect?
Yes, briefly, Your Honor. Audrey, I want to clarify some things. I think counsel asked you if you were in 5 states with Chad and Lori. Chad wasn't with you in Hawaii, right?
That's correct.
And he wasn't there in Missouri.
No, he was not.
Okay. And so when you were participating in these castings or these circles or however we want to describe them, whose hotel rooms were they taking place in?
Theirs.
And when you say theirs?
Lori's.
So it was Lori's.
Yes.
And she was the one who talked to you about that, right?
Yes.
And she's the one who told you the person that the casting needed to be done on, right?
Yes.
It's about to get bad.
She organized it.
Yes.
She picked the target.
Yes.
You know what it's like when plaque psoriasis hide your skin under sleeves. To have a turtleneck.
So sad.
Now, the one on Charles in Utah, I think I asked you if you heard that he died later. Is that right?
Yes.
He was killed.
Yes.
And then there was one casting conducted on Tammy, right?
Yes.
And then she died.
Yes.
Okay.
Terrifying.
And I think,
well, I mean, they were working on their own doing those things.
Yeah. I think defense counsel kind of asked you about this friendship and why you terminated it, and you said that you were scared or in fear. Why was that?
Because of a conversation.
And who was the conversation with?
Lori.
Did she make threats to you?
She did.
What did she say? What threats did she make to you?
Your Honor, I think this is outside.
She threatened
the
to
scope of
kill
her-
me.
I'd object.
Hold on just a minute. It came up on cross-examination, so it's within the scope of cross and proper redirect. Ms. Rawlings, you can re-ask the question.
What's the time and place of this conversation?
And I think, Audrey, you indicated this was when defense counsel asked you why you ended the friendship, and that was in what month?
In October 2019.
Okay.
Yes, I had already made plans to leave because I had prayed about it and felt like I needed to leave and end the friendship. And I was leaving early the next morning. And Lori and I were the only ones in the hall in her place at the time. And I told her that I was going to go upstairs and pack my bag and just go to bed early because I didn't want to spend more time with her. And as I went to go and do that, I asked her the question, is there anything weird going on that I don't know about?
Oh, so hard to listen
And she
to.
said, no. What do you mean? And I said, I don't know anything. And she said, no. So I took her at her word because I'm a trusting person. And as soon as I turned to stop to go up the stairs, she started laughing. The kind of laugh as if you're laughing at someone or think something's hilarious. And she said to me, you're so naive and too trusting. You're like a little child. You'll believe anything anyone would tell you. And she said, You think the world is all unicorns and rainbows. You go around helping people and serving them. Well, I've got news for you. Not everyone's a good person. And not everyone can afford to be so nice and kind. And then she said that she...
So I want to just focus on what threats she made to you.
She threatened to kill me.
Okay. Did she say how?
Yes. She said that she would cut me up. And something about that she wasn't in the mental place to do that, but that she would get herself in that place to be able to do it. But that she didn't want to have to because it'd be so messy and there'd be so much blood. And that and bleach and something about trash bags. And that she would bury me where no one would ever find me.
Which is what they did to Tylee. That's what they did to Tylee. I totally believe
I don't
this
think I have
woman.
any other questions, Your Honor.
I
Thank
believe this woman.
All right, Mr. Hollings.
She's terrified.
You may, Mr. Archibald.
I agree, Lolo.
So this diabolical conversation that you're having with Lori in October of 2019, was this in Idaho?
Yes.
You'd been with her previously in October of 2019 in Missouri, right?
Yes.
You'd been with Lori previously in October of 2019 in Hawaii, right?
Yes.
And then you followed Lori from Hawaii to Idaho in October of 2019, right?
The ABCs
That's right,
of
Diane.
CKD. A
You
is
don't-
for
you
awareness,
don't
because
fake
knowing
that
that your
kind of
chronic kidney
fear.
disease and type 2 diabetes could progress.
That's real.
Yes.
And then you decide it's time to go home to Missouri.
I'm sorry. I didn't follow her. I did not follow Lori.
Okay. You just happened to go from one state where you were vacationing with her to her place where she lived.
She
But
came to
you're saying
Lori
that's not
went
following.
Objection, argumentative.
That's sustained.
So this conversation in Idaho is before you go to the temple or after you go to the temple?
After.
And so you're saying she starts laughing and talks about unicorns and rainbows and that she would cut me up and put me in trash bags.
Now, let me interrupt here. The emotions are tough. It's hard to listen to. But let me say this. So they go to the temple at her request. This is on her like 1,000 pounds. She's afraid. She's horrified. She's fearful. She's freaking out. She goes to the temple. You know, she was praying about this fear and the curiosity of the things that had happened. So I totally believe that when she was praying that she had that awareness. She had that discernment. She said, no, I got to get out of here. In fact, I don't know why I didn't follow my feelings previously, but for sure now. She's very timid. She's not a very strong personality, you know. So she makes this decision. Lori is empowered. Think about this. Charles is gone. Well, Joe Ryan's gone. Charles is gone. Tylee is gone. Then JJ is gone. And Tammy is gone. What is the chance that Lori is hysterical. She is filled with this obscene sense of power. She's done all of this and not gotten caught. Chad's getting a boatload of money. She's exercising all this power and control over people. Well, now Audrey's jumping ship. Audrey's going, this is too weird for me. I'm freaking out. I'm scared. Things are bad here. And that probably shocked Lori. It probably surprised her that Audrey was going, I'm out of here. Color me gone. I totally believe Lori, intoxicated with this obscene level of power and just blasphemy, looking, her religion and Jesus in the face and just creating obscenity in killing your own children, denying Colby's needs. The whole thing was just something that a horror movie would be made of. And I think she was feeling that power. I think she was seduced and she was built up to this state of feeling like she could do whatever she wanted to do. And so when Audrey pulled the plug and said, I'm out of here, I don't like this, I totally believe that in that moment she thought, oh my God, is she going to talk? Is she going to tell? And so she went full on crazy to try and scare Audrey. One last attempt. I think without any doubt that she threatened Audrey's life. And she did it with no fear, coming off of the successful deaths of Joe Ryan, Charles Vallow, Tylee, JJ, and now Tammy. And remember, according to them, now everybody's going to be certain that Chad really and truly is a prophet and a seer. He can see because he's predicted this death and now it's happened and everybody can see it. She was full of it. I believe this woman. I believe every word she's saying.
So, yeah, she mentioned trash bags.
Why?
Objection calls for speculation.
Overruled.
Did she ever say, I killed my kids and I'm going to kill you too?
Objection beyond the scope.
Overruled.
No, I knew nothing about her children.
Right. Did she say, I killed Charles and I'll kill you too?
She didn't talk about Charles.
Nothing like that, right?
She brought up being at the scene, watching someone take their last breaths.
And you have previously testified under oath, swearing an oath that you'll tell the truth. You have previously testified at a grand jury hearing. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Great.
Do you remember taking an oath to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Do you remember that?
Yes.
And do you remember your testimony that you did not say anything like this?
I was scared, and she had said that if you ever tell anyone, I'll come and find you in the dark of night.
So you now want the jury to believe that even though you previously testified under oath and nothing of this sort was talked about, that you come here today and say you're so scared, that's why you didn't previously testify about it.
Objection, Your Honor. Argumentative.
It's overruled.
Oh, boys.
What was your question?
That
You
was
want the jury to believe that you just didn't make this last crap up.
I did not make it up.
If you have Prime, you can get a year of Grubhub Plus free.
But you acknowledge that you did not say this when you previously testified in support of probable cause, right?
Yes, Chad
Okay,
and Lori.
thank you.
Your Honor, can I just ask one follow-up question?
No, Ms. Rawlings, that's been through a redirect and recross, and so that'll conclude the testimony of this
See,
particular
boy
witness.
said, ooh, I didn't think we were going to do this. This is not good. He wanted this to go away.
I was scared, and she had said that if you ever tell anyone, I'll come and find you in the dark of night.
So you now want the jury to believe that even though you previously testified under oath and nothing of this sort was talked about, that you come here today and say you are so scared, that's why you didn't previously testify about it.
Objection, Your Honor. Argumentative.
It's overruled.
What was your question?
You want the jury to believe that you just didn't make this last crap up.
I did not make it up.
But you acknowledge that you did not say this when you previously testified in support of probable cause, right?
Yes.
She didn't have to give
Thank you.
every fact. She didn't have to give every fact to the grand jury.
Your Honor, can I just ask one follow-up question?
No, Ms. Rawlings, that's
Boyce is like, no,
been through a
done.
redirect and recross.
I don't want to hear
so
this
that'll
again.
conclude the testimony of this particular witness. All right, we're going to take our mid-morning recess at this point. Let's
He's
take
mad.
30 minutes, and we'll come back on for additional
Listen.
evidence at about 10:40. Before we do that, let me ask if the witness is under subpoena and can be excused.
We would request that she be released, Your Honor.
All right, any objection?
No objection.
Okay. Ms. Baratterio, you can be released then from your subpoena. We'll be on recess, and we'll come back in 30 minutes.
All right, please.
Boyce was not a happy camper. He was like, golly, this is not good. So there you have it. Now, I think we have to consider this. This is a woman who was there when they cast out Charles. Remember? And he died. And then this was a woman who was there casting out Tammy. She died. And the two children were gone, and nobody, they were gone. Nobody knew where they were. What are the chances that when Lori laughed at her like a demon spawn and said, oh, you think the world is so filled with unicorns, blah, 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 I will kill you. I will cut you up, and I would put a plastic bag around your head so you can't breathe, and nobody will ever find you. What are the chances, coming on the deaths of Charles Vallow and Tammy Daybell, that Audrey believed her? What do you guys think? If you believe that Audrey may have believed Lori's threat that she would kill her if she told about these castings and the other things that they were doing, if you believe she really was in fear of her life, put a 1. If you think that she just made up this lie, okay, I'll tell a lie on the stand in front of a woman who's capable of killing her own 2 children, sure, no problem. Put a 2. So 1, you believe she really believed Lori about killing her, or 2, do you think she was lying on the stand? And let's see where everybody stands on this. Absolutely, if it is true testimony. Absolutely. 1, 1, 1. Hey, Blissful Elixir, how are you? Fractured Fairy Tales. I think it was self-preservation. Me too. I think she's totally telling the truth. I think she's telling the truth. Yep. Hey, Big Ups. Hey, West Virginia. Phoebe. Justice Jane, welcome. Hey, Scarlett. Terrified. Yes, Lolo. Terrified. Lee's Mafia style. Hey, Deb. Yeah. So, very sad. Very, very sad. Okay, so I hadn't seen a single two. I think Lori Vallow and these people were at Coven and had dark magic spell books they were using. That occurred to me, Kathy R. Absolutely, Dr. Latina. Yep. Okay. Yeah, it does sound like it was a really manipulative scenario with Lori. It sound, we really haven't really previously known or understood about these trips to all the different states and in the hotel rooms casting spells. We didn't really know all that. Melanie Gibb said that they did some castings at Zulema's house or at Lori's house, always like in Arizona, right? That was kind of the limits. Now we've got a much deeper picture, and Melanie Pawlowski was there. Melanie Pawlowski was there when they were casting out for Tammy, when they were casting out for Charles. Once Tammy died and they were in Hawaii going back to Rexford, immediately seeing Lori and Chad kissing it up. Pawlowski was there. Come on, Arizona. Where are the arrests? Where are the charges? I believe it in my soul. All right. This has been a long live. You guys are absolute troopers to sit through this whole thing with me. I appreciate it. But was I right? Is this not bombshell testimony? If you think that this was really shocking, put a 1. If you think that I was just using hyperbole, put a 2. Just curious. I think it's huge. I think this was massive. And listen, you and I, I've said this before, you and I, we are the jury, right? There's 180, 190 of us in here. We are the jury. We are those people. And if all of us are looking at this and we're believing Audrey, we're believing what she's saying, we did not get a single person that said, nope, I think she made it up. I think she was lying. Not a single one of you said that. So you know what that means? That means that that jury is sitting there listening and they're going, wow, Lori threatened to kill this woman before they ever found Tylee's body. So who in their right mind would have envisioned the condition of Tylee's body? And yet, Lori describes exactly that, but doing it to Audrey if she ever tells what they've been up to. That's right. Well, yeah, no, I think that's a strong likelihood, Big Ups. At least a few of them. Yep. Okay, so, I feel like saying after watching this, I feel like don't forget to pray tonight before you go to sleep, because this was terrifying. These people were not right. They were under the spell of something else. This was terrible, terrible. I will say this on another terrible note. Letitia Stout case, we're officially in verdict watch. They did, I think they had the case for around 3.5 hours on Friday and did not come back with any kind of verdict. So they've been off this weekend. They start up again tomorrow morning. And so, surely we'll have a verdict by noon. I mean, this is Letitia. This was I don't know if I can say it was a nightmare. just like JJ and Tylee was a nightmare, this was a nightmare too. So so that should be coming tomorrow before noon. Okay, you know what time it is here? It's 11 o'clock. You know what that means? Happy trails to you until we meet again. In Texas, when they close down the dance hall, that's the song they play. So y'all sleep well, say your prayers, and I'll be back. We'll see. But this was definitely bombshell, wasn't it? So I would appreciate it if you would share this on your social media, subscribe if you haven't, hit the like button if you did, and I will return another day. You guys have a good evening. I went the wrong way for my goodbye music. Oh, I missed out on my goodbye music. Oh well. Y'all have a good evening. Bye.